Hey guys, just want to talk to you for a minute. Um, been some more videos put out here recently, and expect a few more to be coming out. Work is kind of slowing down a little bit, so not going to be as busy. But I can't promise that there'll be a new video every day. I'm going to try. I can't promise it. But I really need you guys to tell me what it is that you want to see. I've been doing this for y'all. So, without y'all, there's no reason for me to be doing this. So, tell me what you want to see, and I'll do my dead level best to get it on there for you. Something I want to talk about today, it's kind of important. You see a lot of videos talking about first aid kits, and I've even done a couple of my own. They should be online by now. But what I want to talk to you about is a principle for helping with first aid. It's very, very simple. It's R.I.C.E. Alright, I learned this in college. Yeah, I know what you are thinking. You went to college? Yeah, I went to college. It's called rest, ice, compression, elevation. Hence the acronym R.I.C.E. Well, what does rest mean? Say you turned your ankle playing basketball. After the game, you're probably not even going to notice it during the game, but after the game, you get home, you rest it. You take it easy, you try to stay off of it as much as possible. Limit your other physical activity, if at all possible. So that's really self-explanatory, is rest. The one that's next is I, and that stands for ice. Some people will tell you different things about ice, not to use ice in the first 24 hours, to use heat, whatever they say. My general rule of thumb is I won't use ice within the first 24 hours. But if there's swelling after 24 hours, then I'll use I'll use ice. I'll get a bag of ice, just a Ziploc bag and 15 or 20 ice cubes, put it on the area, say it's a turned ankle, put it on the area, the ankle, and I'll just leave it there. While I'm sitting there watching TV or something like that, I'll put the bag of ice on it and just ice it. Now I won't wrap it with an ice pack. I'll just, ice it. Then about every probably 30 to 45 minutes, I'll take the ice off, leave it off, for another 45 minutes, put the ice back on. So, in or iced, off ice, on ice, off ice, that sort of thing. The next step is what's called compression. And that's where you'll use an ACE bandage. Wrap it up. At this point in time, you're still using rest. You're still using ice. You just added compression to it. So you've got the compression of the ACE bandage holding everything together and the ice on top of it, helping to eliminate the swelling. Now, this is when, depending on how bad it is, will determine if I will wrap the ice bag with the bandage or without. Sometimes I will. If there's bruising, definitely will. If it's not bruised, I'll probably just put the compression on it, then put the ice on top of there. Again, using alternating on and off for 24 hours. If it's not gotten better than 24 hours after the compression, that's when you really need to start thinking about seeing a doctor. But if for some reason you can't, the next step would be elevation. And that's fairly self-explanatory, but I'll talk about it anyway. You want to elevate whatever part is hurt above the level of the heart. Reason being, it slows the blood flow. It doesn't stop it, but it slows the blood flow to it, which means Going to be less bruising, less swelling, because there's less blood flow able to get to the area. So, again, rest, ice, compression, elevation. R.I.C.E. It's a really simple thing to do. That's a good acronym to remember. So again, basic first aid for a twisted ankle, a sprained ankle, that sort of thing. R.I.C.E. Rest, elevation, compression, elevation. All right. I hope that helps, guys. Again, like I said, I'm not the end-all expert, but I do have a pretty fair amount of working knowledge on the subject. So if anybody has any questions at all, I'd be more than happy to do my best to help answer questions. So thanks.